Hi, this is Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au, bringing you my regular weekly feature at this time, Hotspot of the Week. And this week I want to do something a little bit different. Normally I focus on an area that's a future hotspot, a place that we believe through our research has the qualities to provide above average price growth in the future, taking a medium to long-term view. This week I want to focus on an area that's hot already and has been for the last couple of years to make a point. And the point I want to make is that around Australia there are still many markets where prices are growing really strongly. And I'm doing that to try to counteract the persistent media, most of it coming out of Sydney. It's telling us that prices are falling everywhere and markets are going to crash. A sentiment that most commentators disagree with. They're just not getting any media coverage for those particular views. Moderate views aren't receiving coverage, the extreme negative ones are. So I want to focus on the city of Greater Geelong. Now it's a location that we highlighted 2 and 3 years ago as a coming hotspot, and what we predicted for Geelong has certainly come to pass. It's been one of the outstanding performers on price growth in the last 12 to 18 months. So it's no longer in our reports as a future hotspot because it's hot already, but it does serve to illustrate the point about those locations, many of them in regional Australia, where we still have very, very strong price growth. Now, I'm just looking at a chart that highlights the top 50 locations. These are the SA3 statistical regions around Australia, the top 50 for price growth in the last 12 months. And they're all locations where prices in the last 12 months have risen somewhere between 5% and 17% in the last 12 months. The top 15 of these locations have all risen by more than 10%, and one of those is the city of Greater Geelong. According to these figures, on average, prices in Geelong in the last 12 months have grown 10%, but individual suburbs have done a lot better than that. And a couple of those are suburbs at the affordable end of the Geelong market, also locations that are perhaps closest to central Melbourne, up in the northern part of the city of Greater Geelong, suburbs like Corio and Nor Lane. Now, anyone who bought the average house in Corio 12 months ago, towards the end of 2017, would have paid, the median price then was $280,000. 1 year later, the median price is $360,000. So there's been a 27% increase in prices based on those numbers. And so anyone who bought the average house a year ago would have made a capital gain of $80,000. Very similar result in nearby Nor Lane. The median price this time last year was $265,000. It's now $345,000. So it's grown $80,000, and that's 30%. That's massive growth by anyone's standards, and prices in these locations, according to our latest research, are still growing. Those are two examples. Here's another one. I'm just looking at an article in the local Geelong Advertiser talking. It was a feature it did on the suburb of North Geelong. It's another one of those areas that we've noted has hit price growth in terms of growth in its median price in the last 12 months of more than 20%. According to the story, which is based on figures from realestate.com.au, that the median house price for North Geelong has increased 28% throughout 2018 to reach $486,000. So another example of outstanding growth in the city of Greater Geelong. That particular article lists other suburbs in Greater Geelong, according to realestate.com.au, where the price growth has been exceptionally high. Rippleside's up 19%, Port Arlington's up 21%, St Leonard's is also up 21%, Corio, according to these figures, 23%, Nor Lane 23%, Mount Dunedin 24%, Newcombe 24%, Whittington 25%, North Geelong 28%, and Conowari, not sure how to pronounce that particular one, but it's up 30.4% in its median price in the last 12 months. So many of the suburbs of Geelong have displayed exceptional growth in the last 12 months, and based on our view of the numbers, prices are still growing strongly in that market. Now, according to our analysis of the sales data, the Geelong market has actually passed its peak. It's been very, very strong for a couple of years, and but sales activity is no longer rising. It's plateaued out, and that suggests that as we get into 2019, the rate of price growth in Geelong is going to come down. There's always a time lag between what happens with sales volumes, demand, and what turns up in the price data. The prices are always beyond the game. That's why we favour charting sales volumes, which translates into demand, as a better barometer of what's happening with markets. It's ahead of the game. Prices tell us what happened in the recent past, whereas looking at trends with demand, we can see what's coming up with prices in the near future. So we believe that the rate of growth in Geelong is going to start to come down as we get into next year. It's had a couple of really strong years, but right now it's still a very strong market. As an example of those places, any of them in regional Australia, where prices continue to rise very, very strongly, contra to that general media rhetoric coming primarily out of Sydney, where journalists and others are pretty self-obsessed in terms of Sydney being the be-all and end-all. Here's another article from the Geelong Advertiser. It's just further illustrates the point about the Geelong market. It's an article about an auction of a Geelong West property, which according to this sold for $60,000 above the reserve at an auction last weekend. For 5 bidders, it's a renovated 3-bedroom house. The bidding started at $580,000. It went up to $60,000. At that point, the property was called on the market. In other words, vendors are willing to sell it at that price or any price above it. But the bidding continued, and it was finally sold for $721,000. So that's last weekend. Very strong auction result there. Just a further indication that the market there is still very, very strong in terms of buy demand and pricing. Geelong, really important regional city for Victoria. It's a strong economy in its own right. It's had this sort of growth for a couple of reasons. One is because the Geelong economy is very strong. It's transitioned very successfully from the days when it was kind of a smokestack economy, a blue-collar economy, to one where now the leading sectors in terms of jobs creation and employment are the health sector, the education sector, the high-tech sector. It's transitioned from that old economy to a new modern economy very successfully, creating a lot more jobs than the ones that have been lost through events like the closure of the car plant, which gets a sort of negative thing that gets all the publicity, and some people think it's all over Geelong, where the opposite is true. Geelong is absolutely thriving as an economy, and out of that, plus its very strong links to Melbourne, just up the road, has created this mini boom in real estate. It's been very strong for the last couple of years. It's probably going to continue to be quite strong next year, although perhaps not as strong in terms of the level of price growth as it has been in the last 12 months. But yeah, Geelong, great place. A lot of people choose to live there. It's more affordable than Melbourne. It's on a peninsula. Most of it's on a peninsula almost surrounded by water. So that you've got that water-based lifestyle, affordable real estate, a strong economy, local jobs, or if you've got your job happens to be up in Melbourne, there's good transport links to get you there on a daily basis. So yeah, Geelong, our hotspot of the week, a little bit different from what we normally focus on. It's not a future hotspot, it's an existing one, but it illustrates the point, I think, very well, that we do have some very strong real estate markets still, where prices continue to grow and activity is strong. There are others, many others, some of them in regional Victoria, some of them still in the fringe areas of Melbourne, the outer ring areas, some in regional New South Wales, some in regional Queensland, like the Sunshine Coast, where I did a number of television interviews today about a particular suburb there, developments that are happening there, that very strong property market that's arisen out of a strong local economy. It's always about the local economy understand that, and you'll understand real estate a lot more. It's not about the level of interest rates. It's not about negative gearing tax benefits. It's about what's happening in the local economy. Sunshine Coast has a very strong, evolving, growing local economy, and its real estate market is strong for that reason. Geelong's the same. Geelong is a very strong regional economy in Victoria, one of the strongest. Out of that has come a boom property market. That'll do for now. Terry Ryder signing off. Let's do it again soon.